Thank you very much for this very encouraging vision of future. I'm very happy to have had the wisdom to put myself last in this discussion, because everybody has already paved the way to understanding the role of culture in human history. So you are all cordially invited to join the Unit of Cultural Research at Tel Aviv University, which deals with all these problems. I'll take the liberty of saying some generalizations which could very well suit into your scheme of journalistic sentences, you know, those that can be copied and pasted by journalists, but cannot resist, in the other part of my little talk, to raise two particular questions directed to all of you, but especially to our distinguished guest. We in culture research are in debt to Jared Diamond primarily for his willingness and ability to merge and juxtapose a plethora of theoretical and methodological procedures, which is what culture research is about. More particularly, we are very encouraged by at least two of his main macro hypotheses, one on the meta-theoretical and methodological level, and the other on the level of cross-cultural analysis. The first one has to do with his insistence on the feasibility, validity, and productivity of the natural historical experiment, especially by using the comparative methods. This input is of enormous significance to the sciences of man as they are carried out in the various departments of the social, human, and biological sciences. The second one is his insistence, since his very first publications up to his most recent one, I believe the most recent one was The World Until Yesterday, isn't it? That the history of human societies has been mostly that of cultural transmissions, and that both mere survival and a successful existence depend on such transmissions and are greatly endangered by isolation. Diamond's analysis is in full congruence with advances in cultural evolution, where culture is conceived of as the aggregate of solutions for the life of a species that are acquired by learning and are transmitted from one generation to the next. In cultural evolution, social learning is the main condition for the perseverance of culture, often investigated on the individual level. Diamond, on the other hand, insists on learning on the collective level, the acquisition of components of a repertoire of solution that is available from whatever accessible sources. Transmission of solutions is indispensable because without them there is no heterogeneity, namely no multiplicity of options. This heterogeneity has proven to be, through those comparative natural experiments of human history Diamond has been executing for decades, a crucial condition for survival and success. The case of the emergence and diffusion of agriculture as a whole new set of solutions for the human species is one of those perspectives Diamond has been researching in his work. Now, as I told you, I cannot resist putting two special questions. I'm not sure this is the right moment to raise some puzzling issues, but we'll do it. I will do it nevertheless. One concerns the puzzling case of Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. Some would say it undermines Diamond's interpretation of the chain of events started with the initiation of culture primarily of culture as primarily organizing large societies and governments. I do not support this view, that is, I don't believe that the Göbekli-Tepe case undermines the theory in grand scale, but I wonder what Diamond himself thinks of it. The other one concerns the avenues of repertoire transmissions. In this case, the transmission of agriculture from the Fertile Crescent to Europe. We normally think of a transmission of repertoire carried away by all sorts of agents, from a source to a target territory. This seems to have been the main hypothesis among historians, including Diamond. However, the persistent work of Wolfgang Hack and his group in the last decade claims to have revealed that, I quote from Hack's latest paper, when compared to indigenous hunter-gatherer populations, the unique and characteristic genetic signature of the early farmer suggests, in Europe, suggests a significant demographic input from the Near East during the onset of farming in Europe. This suggests the possibility of agricultural repertoire transmission not only, or perhaps not even mainly, through agents, but through direct migration of people who transported their repertoire with them. You know, we distinguish in cultural transmissions between the movements of repertoires without people, movements of people with their repertoires. It is moving of cultural traits without people, but normally via agents, or with people through migrations. I wonder if you consider this work to be significant in the context of the diffusion of Fertile Crescent culture to Europe. Europe got its name, as all of you know, from the Hebrew word Erev, meaning evening, meaning west. Thank you very much. As a chairperson, I now give the floor to Professor Diamond.